are starting to read again out of Across the Wide and Lonesome Prairie. This book is going to teach us a little bit more about the Oregon Trail and what the life was like on the Oregon Trail. The narrator of this is a little girl named Hattie. Hattie, her family has experienced a lot of death, including 4 of her siblings, and they were all sisters. And they decided they wanted to go west to where they could have a fresh start. People went west for various reasons. Some for religious purposes. They wanted religious freedom to be able to live the life they wanted to live. Sometimes they wanted to go because they felt like they could get rich because of that gold that they felt like they could get. They felt like they could go the west because they wanted to have a better life. They wanted land of their own. They wanted to be able to farm. They wanted to have just a better life. And so they wanted to go west for various reasons. And I'm sure there are more reasons than I can name here or that I'm forgetting. You will find that sometimes there might have been some African Americans going west. There was just numerous reasons why they would go west. So we are going to be learning a little bit more out of our, in listening out of this book, The Dear America. I love Dear America books because it's a journal entry out of their life. And I do have some maps and stuff that I'll show you as we go along. But we'll find some of the hardships that they have dealt with. So what we have learned so far, that it's been so long in their journey that she's lost track of the time. So at the beginning, she would say that it was April 2nd or April 3rd, whatever. And now you're getting later, finally, 3 days later. You're getting various lengths in time. I'm trying to find a map for you. I'm sorry. I thought it was put together a little bit more than what I was. So sorry. I apologize. Oh, here's the map I was looking for. Okay. So her family actually started all the way over here. They went on a steamboat and they went up the Mississippi, up the Missouri. They also then got off of the steamboat at Independence. They had all of their things, all of their possessions on the steamboat, unpacked everything there, bought their oxen, bought all of the things they needed in Independence, loaded up, and then they kind of had to wait a while and decide when was a good time to leave. We talked in my class about when a good time would be to leave, because you had to decide, is it a good time right now? It's March right now, and if we're from Northwest Missouri, so if we look outside now, there's some grass that's green, but we also know it snowed on Sunday. So would it be a good time for oxen to eat right now? If you know that there are hundreds and hundreds of other people coming, would that be a good time for you to leave? Now, we also had a talk about if you waited until it was too far along. There were people that once you went to the mountains here, they got stuck here. And when they got stuck here, they either froze to death, and there was one family, they got stuck here, the party here, they got stuck. They ended up having to eat each other because they had no other way to survive. So that you have to make some hard decisions on how you're going to get here, all the way here, from, wherever you're coming from. But for most people, this is where you consider the Oregon Trail starting. Okay, so they waited, I believe, I don't know positively because I would have to really research a little bit more. But it was in April, I believe, is when they decided. And I think that's when my class decided we would leave as well, because the grass would be a little bit greener outside. And you want to kind of make sure that it's warm enough, there's enough grass for your oxen to be able to eat, but it's not late enough that you're gonna also have hardship as you go, and not too late to get stuck in those mountains where you might freeze to death and die. So, super hard talks, I know. Where they were at the last time that we talked, they were a little bit past the Platte River crossing. Oh, they're right here. We're at this Ash Hollow in the Platte River crossing. So what's happening there? There is a group of people on the other side that were Mormon. This was a different religion than they've ever come across before. They are not Mormon. The Mormon that are coming, they are wanting to go to Utah, and they have a different religion. Their religion is different from the people that the narrator is, and the Mormon, they believe that they could have more than one wife, and so it's a little bit different for them. But the Mormon are staying on the other side, so they don't understand why. So we're going to discover maybe and see why it's so different for them. But a really big crisis has happened, and poor Hattie has had heartbreak in her life. So as you go along the Oregon Trail, many times you had to walk. If you were a kid, you walked all of those miles. Those were thousands of miles you walked. And as you went along, you would find like carrots, wild carrots from other people that would drop their food as they went along from the previous years, whatever, that they just were wild. And so you would have wild carrots, and you would have other food that you would pick up. Well, they went to a swampy area, and they picked some food, and they started preparing. It was their job that night for their group to prepare food. And as they were preparing the stew, a little girl, she gave some food to her, and didn't think much of it. A little bit later, as they were doing a little bit more, the boys kind of got into it, and they started foaming at the mouth. It ended up that some of the food that they got was actually poisonous, and it ended up killing at least 3 and possibly another one. And so Hattie is the one that prepared it. She's the one that, remember, she's a little girl, so she is feeling very guilty at this point in time, and she is beside herself, like super beside herself. So I want you to think right now, how would you feel if you were Hattie and your job was to actually prepare this meal, and now you have accidentally killed some other kids your age? Oh man, we don't know life like this, do we? Okay, so we are at Ash Hollow. We're gonna, the next thing that as we were reading, they were going down these big hills, and their wagons started to like get out of control and disperse and kind of like crash. And so several of the wagons went kind of like a big car crash, and you didn't have a wagon anymore. So they had the oxen were teamed up with other wagons, but now those people are kind of split into other places, and they're now going to be you're going to see families split apart, but they're staying as a group. So that's really sweet that they're teaming up and they're helping each other. So we're going to begin at Ash Hollow. If you're following along in your reading, we're on page 50 today. Ash Hollow. The Platte split into 2. So now our trail is along the North Platte River. Our reward for making it down the windless hill is the most beautiful campsite yet. It's called Ash Hollow because of so many thick, shady ash trees. I wonder, have you ever seen an ash tree before? What does an ash tree look like? There's a spring with fresh, icy water so we can fill up our barrels and such. Everywhere we look, there's a firewood and good pasture for the animals. It is so peaceful, Ma said. Oh, Charles, can't we stay here forever? Oh, who remembers about Ma? Was Ma excited about coming? Who was excited in their family? Was it Ma or Pa? Yeah, you're right. It was Pa. Now Ma is finally excited about something. Do you think they're going to stay here? A few years ago, some immigrants did exactly that. A family built themselves a cabin and plowed a field. They are friendly to us and have offered to post our letters with the next travelers heading back to Missouri. Many of us quick wrote to friends. I tore out sheets of paper from this journal and sent Becky a drawing of hemlock. Oh, that is what she picked. Hemlock is what she picked out of the ground, and that's what killed all those kids. I want to go back and tell you about hemlock for a smidgen. Hemlock would have killed all of the people there. The reason it only killed those kids is because they were the ones that got into the soup first. So Pa stopped everyone else from eating beforehand. So just wanted to let you know that. Sorry, I should have held my place. The moon is full, so I'm writing by its light as I sit near the wagon. There are hundreds of campfires tonight and singing. Ma is walking along a creek with Mrs. Anderson, who has been silent for days. Ma says she's grieving that she finally realizes little Cassia is gone and that her grave is far away in a lonely place along a river she'll never see again. That's that little girl that had the first bite of hemlock. I'm so very sad for her. This makes me watch Benny and Jake more close, for I don't know how Ma and Pa and me could go on if they became lost or died somehow. So Benny and Jake are her brothers. Those are the only siblings that they have left, that she has left. There are Indians, about 20 camped nearby, and the sight of them makes me so nervous. I feel vomity. Have you ever felt vomity before? I wonder what that means. I think that might mean that she felt so nervous in her stomach. Some women came near, holding their hands out, talking with their language. Their deerskin dresses have tiny beads sewn along their sleeves. Their hair is braided over their shoulders. One of them wore a basket on her back with a baby inside. A dark-haired baby with dark, quiet eyes. What do you think quiet eyes look like? They accepted Ma's corn cakes without a smile. That's weird. I asked Tall Joe why they are begging. They aren't begging, he said. Indians are hospitable people, and if they was passing through our land, they'd give us a gift. They're just asking for ours. They look like beggars to me, but they are not making trouble. Matter of fact, one of the women did something real nice. She saw Mrs. Anderson off by herself crying and walked over to her with a square of deer skin the size of a plate. On it was several chunks of cooked meat. She picked up a piece and put it to Mrs. Anderson's lips, nodding for her to eat it. The woman then pointed to the little Anderson girls playing in the stream, then motioned with her hands and mouth like she was eating. Finally, Mrs. Anderson accepted the gift. I think she understood that the Indian women wanted her to take the nourishment for the sake of the little girls. Oh, I wonder as a mama, I've had to think about that before. Sometimes I've been so sad about things, but I have to like think about, I need to really take care of my kiddos. Have you ever thought about that? Maybe not for you, you don't have kiddos, but maybe you've thought about that. About maybe you're sad or you're upset, but maybe you need to take care of your brother or your sister and you need to make them happy, or you need to like check on your friend and see how they're doing, right? Sometimes there's things that by helping others, we make ourselves feel a little bit better too. Later, Aunt June wears a smock dress now on account she's getting bigger. Who remembers why she's getting bigger? Is she eating too much? No, she is expecting a baby. I helped her and Ma do laundry. The stream was busy with ladies talking and working. By afternoon, the bushes were covered with petticoats, shirts, calicos, blankets, all drying in the hot sun. The youngest children ran naked into the water. Oh my gracious. Pepper and I loosened our braids and stripped down to our camisoles, then jumped in too. How good the cold water felt pouring over my face, through my hair, and how good it felt to wash away the dust. We swam downstream along the bank where willows made a canopy of shade. It was shallow enough to sit on the sandy bottom, the water up to our shoulders. Ma don't know this, but we then took off our drawers and camisoles until we was bare as the day we were born. Oh no! Reckless with joy, we dove below the surface to stare. It was several minutes before we realized our clothes was floating downstream, far beyond our reach, down in the direction of the men and boys. Pepper and I soon learned it ain't easy to walk upstream, crouch down, so only your head is above water. Also, it is near impossible to swim without your bare backside showing. Uh-oh. I think they learned their lesson. What do you think? We was rescued by two grandmothers holding blankets for us. There is dancing again tonight. Ma still refuses to join in. Pepper was fetched by Gideon, and this time he held her hand all the way through camp. Oh yes, a little baby girl was born this morning at Ash Hollow. Another thing, that fat lady came over and brung Ma a fresh pie. Mince, it turns out. I hurried off to watch from the trees. She must eat 10 pies a day, I reckon. Now that was not very nice of her. I hope she feels very guilty about that later. That was a very nice thing of her to bring that to her, right? I wish that Hattie would not have said that. Next day, in the far distance, the prairie and low hills are black. I thought there must have been a fire, but Tall Joe said, nope, it's just buffalo, thousands and thousands of them. After supper, I sat by the fire to mend Benny's blanket. He lay next to me in the dirt, talking about this and that. Then suddenly, he was fast asleep. I like the way he folds into my arms when I carry him to bed. Later, we are starting to find buffalo droppings. What do you think buffalo droppings are? Do you think they drop food for you? Maybe they drop pieces of fur for them. What do you think they are? If you live on the farm, I bet you know what they are. Maybe it will. Maybe if I want you to use your context clues right now. I know you may not be reading it. I want you to think about it, and I want you to infer as we're reading and figure out what buffalo droppings are. And Tall Joe says, where there's buffs, there's Injuns. Injuns was another word for Indians. We like to call those Native Americans. Hunters leave the wagons everywhere, morning to look for game. They brung down 2 buffalo near enough to the trails so folks can see them being skinned and butchered. Jake went with some older boys to watch, but I stayed behind. Aunt June was resting in her wagon with Olive and Laurel, who are 3 and 4 years old. To make room inside, Uncle Tim pulled out several sacks of bacon and flour. It is so much work to pack and unpack that at noon Pa just lies flat in the dirt to rest, and he's sound asleep before his eyes even close. We're camped next door to Aunt June with tarp stretched between the tops for shade. I saw Mrs. Kinker wave howdy. "Hattie, dear," she said. May I borrow one of your mother's tablecloths, please? Mine is soiled and Mrs. Kinker's is ready for his lunch. I felt stiff toward her. "I'm afraid not, Mrs. Kinker." My aunt's voice came from the wagon. "Hattie Campbell, we are not a family to refuse hospitality. Help Mrs. Kinker take what she needs." What do we remember about Mrs. Kinker? Why is she not being kind to Mrs. Kinker? Mrs. Kinker is a thief. What's another word for a thief? She steals everyone's things, but no one has caught her except Hattie. But Hattie doesn't want anyone to get stirred up, especially her mama. So she hasn't said anything. So now Hattie's getting in trouble because she's not wanting to get things all stirred up, but she's not wanting to also give her things away. Ooh. Well, by the time Mrs. Kinker had snooped around, we were quite a bit lighter. She took our lovely lace tablecloth that Grandma made, 5 doilies, a tea cozy, and 1 English teacup. She also grabbed one of Ma's brown calico skirts, draped it over her arm, and snatched it back. But I snatched it back. Our eyes locked. Then finally she turned away. "Thank you, dear," she called over her shoulder, her arms too full to wave. Jake was so excited to tell about the buffalo skinning, and he pulled my hand to go see, but I was bothered by Mrs. Kinker and wouldn't. When Ma came back, I told her, but she said the same thing as Aunt June. We must share. This makes me mad. I like to share with nice folks, not those that take advantage. I'm afraid I say anything more about Mrs. Kinker, I'll sound wretched. So that's all for now. How sad. Okay, so it didn't really give us an opportunity. I'm going to keep going because it does. Okay, I was going to stop, but I'm going to keep going. Later again, there are more and more buffalo. There are so many. The herds look like a dark stain moving around the hills. The droppings are flat, full of dried grass. Dried grass? And make good coals. But it takes near a bushel to make a decent cooking fire. I would rather pick up twigs and logs than buffalo dung. Buffalo droppings, buffalo dung. But this is what we must do. As long as they're not fresh and gooey, it ain't bad. The boys, including my naughty brother Jake, spend most of their chore time throwing these buffalo chips at each other. Like snowball fight. Instead of helping, They also think it's fun to ambush us girls, but I think it's nasty. Pepper and I feel nervous when we go out to gather the chips. The other day, 2 horsemen were watching from a distance, so we told our fathers, who told the rest of the men. Now they all ride with loaded guns. It scares me to think Indians are following us. Maybe Indian women are nice, but the men carry weapons. I do not trust them. I walk alongside Wade's wagon with Pepper. She and I sing to him Yankee Doodle and other songs. We feel silly, but maybe he'll wake up. He's swallowing the broth. He's swallowing the broth. She spoons into his mouth, and his arms no longer shake or stiffen. Mrs. Lewis and her friends look in on him constantly, and I will say he's the most prayed over boy I ever met. Remember that I said that there was at least 3 that died? Now, their friend, also Wade, he also ate out of that stew, but he did not die because they were able to grind up enough coal from the fire that was like not hot, and get it in his mouth, and it kind of makes them throw up. And he did not die, but he had a lot of seizures, and he hasn't woke up yet. So people are taking care of him, but they don't have medicine. They're just doing what they can. They're doing broth and water. It sounds like he stopped having seizures. I want you to tell me, so we had a couple things about the buffalo chips. We had buffalo dung. We had buffalo chips. We had that there was, sometimes they would be flat and there would be dry grass in there. Sometimes it would be fresh and gooey. Ew. They would use those as, well, the boys use those to throw those around like snowballs. Gross. But they would use those to start fires. What is a buffalo chip? Do you know? Do you know? I'm not going to tell you. I want you to tell me below. I will start it off like that tomorrow with the answer, but I want to know what you think it is. Tell me below. I hope you enjoyed the reading of our Dear America book. Our author for this is Christiana, Gregory. And I just love Dear America books. So if you like history and you want a little humor, and I don't know, they're just really good. This, oh man, I don't have a level in this one. Sorry. Oh, this one is on like a middle of 5th grade reading level. I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. So I'm going to hop off of here. I will be back on, I'm sure, later. But I just wanted to say hi. I hope you're doing well. Join me later.